It is the Practical Prayer Podcast on the New Thought Media Network. I am Bill, that's Carol, and we are here for yet another episode. Happy Easter Monday.
Happy Easter Monday.
Yeah, Easter Monday. So when you were doing Christian church from the pulpit, by the time Easter Monday came along, were you like done?
Yes, totally. Yes. Oh, I could tell you a really quick story.
Go ahead.
Now, with that being absolutely, that was true what you said. So I'm doing other stuff now, but there were certain things about certain holidays that I really, into. And so this metaphysical perception of or perspective of various things is exciting to me. So I created this whole long series. Now, mind you, I don't know that I even had any idea what I was going to do with it. I'm just having fun. So I did the whole thing from Passover all the way to the Last Supper, Good Friday, Easter. I did it. I was so happy. I still had no idea what I'm doing, right? But I did it. Presented it all through these, and it's Monday, and you know what I feel like? I barely got through the last segment. And I thought, in light of not being responsible for doing this, Carol, you didn't have to do this.
You didn't have
What
to
were
do
you
it.
thinking? What were you thinking?
It
But
just,
yeah,
that's always, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
exactly. That's what I said to somebody. Seemed like a good idea at the time.
That's right. And there's so many things that in hindsight you say, okay, yeah, I learned something there. But I guess in hindsight, maybe the
I
other
was,
one's upon reflection. Upon reflection, a
yeah,
different activity might have been more helpful.
well, you know what? I didn't build in nap time. That was the problem.
There you
And
go.
yeah, because I never took naps. But somebody forgot to tell me that I'm not 30. So I still act like I'm 30. And I'm like, no, girl, no, you need to rest.
Yeah, that's what our morning meditation was about today. It's about being in that balance point, because when you get raring to go and starting up on a Monday morning and got the whole exciting week ahead of you, then there's a desire for a lot of energy. And there are other times where you've done the whole thing and you're finished with the project and it's time to relax, and then you don't want the energy because the energy will just make you be restless and bored.
It's rough. It's rough. It's worth taking. I don't know where you teach such a thing, but you really need to give some attention to it. So
Self-care and staying in balance.
yeah, I guess so. It sounds boring though to me. Just if I was to go to a self-care being in balance, if that was available, I wouldn't go,
Mm-hmm.
even though I should be there on the front row.
Perhaps it's a marketing thing, because the way to
Yeah,
approach
yeah,
that is, if you do a lot, then how do you make sure that your fuel tank stays full?
yeah.
Because that's how you do it.
I think with people like me, you got to experience empty empty tank, almost full blown crash, and say, okay, I don't want to feel this again. I don't want to do this. That's where I'm at right now. Like, I don't want to do this again. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, but I also, from personality, you learn something, and then when another project comes along, you forget it all.
You think so?
I think that's
Oh,
you.
oh,
Is that you?
probably. I
Have you
mean,
done this
I
more than
don't.
once?
Yeah, many times. But I'm
Okay.
trying to. I'm trying to be different. You know what? Well, here's at the last minute, I thought, okay, Lawrence, it was put to the test, right? Because we're finished Easter, but there's still 50 days to Pentecost. So this Easter is such an amazingly spiritual thing in terms of spiritual awakenings and all that business. And Pentecost is just like slams it. And it's always been a part of why everybody would come to my church during that time because and last night I said, there's 50 days to Pentecost and we're not doing any of it.
Hey, look at that. It's self-care.
It's like total exhaustion. Listen, I got a podcast to do with my friend tomorrow. That's about
That's right.
all I can promise.
We'll take a nap. We'll do a podcast. And after that, well, we'll see.
We'll see. I'm going to the gym, though.
There you go. There you go. I'm going to tell the folks on New Thought Media Network who are watching us live or watching the recording that this is the pre-show for the Practical Prayer Podcast. We're about to record an episode of the Practical Prayer Podcast, which will go online in the universe of podcasts in a week and a half. So we can be very topical today if we wanted to. If we wanted to mention something about Pope Francis passing this morning, then we would do that in the pre-show. Because that's a sad moment, and what perfect timing on his part, right?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. I just
taking some time off after Easter.
I read the story about how he, the days preceding that, and he was not one to rest either. But he was 88, right. So I think he was a phenomenal guy, though. I really. Yeah, ahead of his time or right on time. He just didn't have enough time.
Oh, yeah. He caught my attention early on when he said, "Who am I to judge?" And everybody else in the world said, "You're the Pope. That's usually the job."
Yeah.
But he rolled it differently.
Yeah,
anyway, continuing the rant about the folks who are watching on New Thought Media Network. If you have a question or a comment or a prayer request, you please feel free to put it in the comments on your social media as you're watching, and we can respond in real time. If you are watching the recording, you can go to the website, which is right beneath Carol now, b-the-light.com. There's a section for the Practical Prayer Podcast there, and you are welcome to click the button to communicate with us and share your thoughts there, and we will have the same sort of reaction or response to you in an upcoming episode. I'm looking forward to the topic today. I was tardy getting in from the green room. I'm not even going to talk about my reasons for tardiness, but I just heard the topic, and I'm like, ooh. Ooh. Because I haven't done that one specifically before, but I've got a whole bunch of ideas. And as you know, not knowing what I'm talking about never stops me.
I'm leaving that alone. Hey, it's enough for me to keep up with what I'm talking about, right?
So I'm looking forward. Let's go ahead and start an episode. Let's start a podcast episode.
Good.
On your mark, get set, podcast.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
Looking forward to a very exciting conversation today. This is episode number 196 of the Practical Prayer Podcast. My goodness. It's like edging towards 200. Like,
It'll
really?
be 200 in a minute. It'll be 200.
Yeah, we're like right up to that now. And no shortage of exciting, interesting, fascinating, and perhaps challenging topics, because you picked one off the money.
Yeah.
Which I think is perhaps right on the money.
Right on the money.
So what's the topic today?
Well, the topic is, what's on the money is In God We Trust. And let me tell you how I got to that.
Okay.
It's like everything that we're going through right now in our country that nobody wants to talk about, uh, because we whatever. But I don't see how you can, because we feel about it, and I think talking about things helps to balance us and be able to really cope and navigate through all the crazy. But still, there are, there's this thing, you don't talk about it. But I feel like sometimes a sense of responsibility, or no, let me put it this way. One of my favorite questions is, Spirit, what is mine to do right now? And I really honestly wait to get a response, and I always do. So it just came to me, in God we trust. And I thought, nah, I don't, I don't know about this. I don't even see how this fits in. However, as you said, everything is about money. Everything. I mean, the upsetness is about the money. That's what's really going to turn the tides on this. We know that, right? Yes, the moral issues will definitely take a backseat, as they already have. Money drives the bus.
Yep.
And so I'm thinking about that. Whether we like it or not, that's just the way it goes. So I'm thinking, okay. And then I said, what's on the back of the money? In God we trust. Now, here's my question to you, because I couldn't begin to trust my answer. How long has that been on the money? In God we trust. Now, I was going to specifically ask Google, but the idea is that I don't know if we ever remember a time when it wasn't there. So,
Oh, I certainly don't.
Yes.
I certainly don't remember a time that it wasn't there.
So that in God we trust has been passed down from hand to hand millions of times in gajillions of situations. It's like bombarding the universe with saying, whether we know it or not, or believe it or not, in God we trust. And we just keep on saying that. And I'm saying that it matters, because a lot of times we're doing things or saying things that doesn't matter to us, but the energy picks it up and the universe takes over, and you don't know what's happening to it. You're not aware of it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Not necessarily, no.
Not necessarily. If you're not on the side of the street of spirituality, you're almost guaranteed not to know,
Right.
or be it. But it's still happening, and so I thought, hundreds of billions of times we have said, "In God we trust." Whether you read the money or not, we've said it, we've held it, we've honored it.
Most people are carrying it around all the time.
All the time. It's up on your wall. You give it to your children. It is a part. It's almost like a part of. It's breathing. It's almost like breath, because it's everywhere and it's always been. Maybe, just maybe, there's something that's going to kick in from that, and probably always has. But I stay away from the scary stories, just enough just to know what's going on, right? But I look at the stocks, I look at this, and I'm thinking, okay, this thing is getting tremendously ugly, and people are being afraid. And then it came to me, how often, without even knowing, over this, as long as have we been saying, in God we trust, even if it's just touching the money, or exchanging it with something at a store. Do you know what I'm saying? I could go,
Sure. Yeah.
I could go forever describing it. But if we look at it being from an energetic perspective, we have been saying this millions upon millions of times with our activity and so forth. So in these moments that seem to be frightening, in God we trust.
Mm-hmm.
That might be something to think about.
Yep. And insightful line of thinking there. And there are two different perspectives that I have on this. The first one is the metaphysics of writing down in God we trust on the money, and giving everybody something that they can fold up and carry with them, and believe in. Because everybody believes that a dollar's worth a dollar. So there's some discussion about, is a dollar worth what a dollar used to be worth? But there is that intrinsic inherent belief that this thing that I'm carrying around has value. And on there is that saying that I'm trusting the infinite. And I would have to go back and research when that got onto the money. My suspicion is real early on. And my suspicion is that it was sort of maneuvered into place by one of the guys who was also a Mason, because there's a lot of Freemasonry sort of symbols also on the back of the money. Like, we don't have a lot of pyramids here in the United States, but there's a pyramid on the back of the dollar bill.
Yeah, yeah,
along with that,
yeah.
along with that interesting eye, and the section of the pyramid that's missing. So there is a lot of meaning and intention that's put behind that by people who came to this with a very metaphysical perspective and an understanding of things that are visible as well as things that are not visible. And saying, "In God we trust," and laying that as a claim, staking our claim there, "In God we trust," and the rest of this is going to come together, gives us a foundation for belief without saying what the God is or what church the God goes to or anything else. I think, God is a 3-letter word that means infinite creative power that creates everything, including me and each of us. It's easier to say God.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that is that's the uplifting part of it. There is a possibility that something is unfolding that is as good as any of us can possibly imagine, and even better. And then on the cynical side of that, recognizing that there is that one infinite creative power that we call God that began with nothing other than itself and infinite substance and energy, which it then began sharing, whether it was itself saying, "Let there be light," and creating the light out of itself, or in the case of the Big Bang, exploding and starting to react and evolve, and everything that exists everywhere has come about from that one. It is that one. And understanding that there are billions of galaxies and billions of stars and solar systems in each of the galaxies, and they're very likely to each of them have planets. And here's the cynical part. If we were to completely mess everything up on planet Earth, I mean, just like a complete ruin it, gotta start over again, it won't change the universe that much. So on that cosmic scale, that divine unfolding is still going to be happening. It might be rather unpleasant, uncomfortable, or unsustainable for us. But that's the nature of the infinite creative process. It can create anything. It creates stuff that we describe as good and more good and more good. And it can create stuff that we describe as, "This sucks." And the infinite is okay with either of those. So I absolutely, unquestionably trust that the divine is continuing to create. And, the divine brings out the best in us. And the divine also allows us to pursue that which is not particularly harmonious or helpful or in balance for everybody. If you're more interested in the dollar than the fact that there's a divine power and presence unfolding, then there's a mad scramble for the dollars. And it's possible that's what's going on now. A lot of people think that's what's going on now. And a rebalancing. So the people who want to be printing the money are the ones who get to keep it.
There's so much going on. But you know me, like, I'm peeling back the whole thing, like peeling back every layer to see what I can find in this that makes some sense. Not so much an answer, but just help me make sense with another thought or another fact. And I was actually just walking down the hall when that came to me. And I had to stop, and I thought, this means a lot. This could mean a lot. Why did this come to you? And then I allowed my imagination to go crazy with, "If in God we trust," gets in the driver's seat where it has always been on the money. It might be an interesting thing to just sit back and watch. At least it takes away some of the fearful energy that's out there right now, because to me, it's another perspective I haven't heard of. quite yet. Not that I'm so, came up with something so deep, but it's just another thought. And there's always another thought, I think. There's always another way it could work out, because since I love that term, that infinite creative power that created everything, you and me. And we're not in the equation of the creating. We are the create, we
Right.
are the created. So that means that it's just worth, even for those who embrace, however you understand, being the co-creator of your reality, you're still co. So there's that point that you stand back and say, there's something bigger that's at work here. And I can at least take 5 minutes to consider what this might be. So I thought this is the best place to bring this up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult when we're personally invested in what's going on to be just dispassionate. Say, oh well, this is love unfolding, and it happens to be in a destructive phase.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are living in the middle of where the wildfires are going through, it's hard to say, oh, it's a rejuvenating.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an opportunity for nature to replenish itself. It's like, yeah, I built that house. I really like to keep the stuff that's in it. So it's not that it's always pleasant. It's not always the way that we want it to be. There's always an unfolding that's going on, and something is coming about, and we are the created, and we are also co-creators. So we're creating that next piece of experience. And the interesting part for me is that the less attached we are to specifically what that next bit of creation, of evolution, of unfolding looks like, the more likely it is that we're going to be able to participate in bringing it about. So if I want that person to walk down this street and have a problem with this other event, then I have a lot less influence on that than if I want to be in a place where the pieces are fitting together in a way that brings harmony and love and serenity to me and to that person and to everybody involved. Then it doesn't matter if they walk down that street and run into that person, or if something else happens and I wind up feeling happy about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are things that I am perfectly happy about now that I never would have expected. And certainly were not on the table. If I'd been in charge, I never would have thought of this.
Yeah, yeah. It's trust. The word we use more is faith, but I think that trust is a nice word to put in right here, because what do we trust really? Maybe it's God, but it doesn't matter which God you call it, which, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's whatever God it is. My definition of God is that in which nothing greater can be conceived. So it doesn't matter which the name of that God. I'm trusting that which is nothing greater. And of course, I can elaborate on that. But okay, so if that's the case, I think I'll take a deep breath and see exactly what does that mean in the context that I'm in right now. And you can step into the road of being threatened, and then you become afraid of all of the things that you wanted to happen. They might not happen, and oh my God, what's going to happen? And I just paused and thought, I'm in the midst of a lot of things, and I have some ideas, and maybe this is a time to really think those through, because I can't fix any of this that's going on. I don't even have a good idea that would be workable if somebody called me and said, Carol, we've been trying to reach you. I don't, it's above my pay grade. But what is in my, within the sphere of my power, there's a lot that I can think about that needs my attention in terms of what is the next divine right step. I need to give that some attention. And in God we trust. I've always trusted God. So
Yeah.
let me just pay attention to what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
There's a whole process of letting go
Yeah.
and not being attached to what specifically is going on now, because that gives us the elbow room to be informed about some other way to engage in that. There's actually a wonderful book that David Hawkins wrote about letting go. Let's take a break and then talk about letting go.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marchiony's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the new thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
We're talking about "In God We Trust," the pithy line on the back of the money, or in some of the money it's on the front, like coins. But it's on all of it, and we're talking about the divine creative power and presence that creates everything, and the fact that we're all carrying that around with us all the time, that idea of "In God We Trust." And we got to, going into the break, was the notion of becoming unattached, of letting go. And I referenced Dr. David Hawkins' book, Letting Go. And he says that what happens is there's an event, and we have a thought about the event. Like, oh my God, the stock market is tanking. And then we have a feeling about the thought. And like, I'm going to lose the 401k. I'm not going to be able to retire. I'm going to have to be a greeter at Walmart or whatever. And so we have that feeling, that fear that comes up. And then everything that happens after that is trying to fix things so that the feeling goes away. And he says that in letting go, when the feeling comes up, just stay with it. Like, yep, that's what I'm feeling about this. Don't go to the secondary feeling or the tertiary thought or the rest of it. Don't chase it down the rabbit hole. Just be there with the feeling. Okay, yeah, this thing has happened. It makes me feel fearful. And I'm just going to stay with the fear. And interestingly, what happens is you stay with the fear and it runs its course. And then you get back to a place where you're just there the way you were beforehand. And you're able to engage in the actual situation in a way that's not just about the fear.
It's like coming to that point of reality. You know, you wake up to, okay, this is what's going on. This is what I can do and can't do. You know, again, what is mine to do? And so since I cannot influence this in any meaningful way, you know, hugely meaningful way, back up and see what it is you can do, because we can spend our energy and our mental, what do you call it? The investment of our mental energy until we're at the point of exhaustion. And I don't think that is helpful at all. It isn't helpful.
It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. And, you know, by letting go of, okay, these are all the things that are going on, and, you know, feeling I have to react and take a stand against that person or this activity or that policy or this thing, by letting go of our attachment to whatever that fear that came up is, we can open ourselves up to guidance. Maybe there is something for us to do. Maybe there's a step to take. Maybe it's exactly what we thought it was going to be, and maybe it's different. Maybe it's something we had no idea about. Maybe it's so off base and, you know, out of the range of normal consideration that we would never have thought of it. But every time one of those things comes up that we get to let go of, it is an opportunity to open our awareness to something different and something bigger.
Exactly.
Damn it.
Exactly. Well, no, but it's damn it in our favor, because
Right.
that word opportunity is an amazing word. I shared with you that I would walk in the community, for whatever 3 miles my walk was or whatever, and it suddenly got close to the time of the election, and the whole doggone little town I lived in turned red, and I didn't know it was like that. So suddenly, I'm scared. I'm scared to walk. Okay, so fast forward, we know where we are now, and so I was on my way somewhere this weekend, and I drove down, which is our little main street, the Starbucks street and there were protesters out. And I thought, well, now look at this. This whole red town now is out.
There's a splash of color here now.
Oh, wait a minute. And no offense intended, but there weren't enough out. It just, I said, either you guys are not organized, or yeah, it's not enough people here to make a difference. I'm used to Bernie, my guy Bernie. He's pulling them in by the hundreds of thousands, right? Now here, if you collected the whole bunch of them that were there, you got 50, right? So here was my thought. What is mine to do? Nothing. This is not my fight. This is a red town. You got him. You fix this. Nothing is mine. To keep going. And yeah, so it's just a lot of different things. I think is a lesson in every juncture of thought
Yeah,
in
you
this
can
whole
honk
thing.
if you agree. Yeah, that's your participation for now, and perhaps there will be something that is yours to do in an upcoming phase. Now, you live in a beach town, and it is before the season, so your town changes a lot, like Memorial Day weekend, and the out of towners change the flavor of the neighborhood, and the length of line at the Starbucks and all the rest of it. And your hometown's Philadelphia.
Yes,
So you're used to, if we're going to have a crowd, let's go down to Independence Mall and have a crowd.
that's right.
So then that's what I've been doing lately, And what can I do? It's just me going down to Independence Mall, and I've done it a couple of times now. And there's a lot of other people there, and they're marching around, and they have signs. Some of them are very entertaining. They have they have chants that they do, which is currently very poorly organized. But it's getting better. They're getting their stuff together, and it's an exercise in flexing that spiritual, political, emotional muscle, and get it moving some, and marching in front of the Starbucks in a little town, at the beach before the season, may or may not be your thing, and that's okay. But don't judge it and say that's never going to work. Say that's not working for me right now.
Yeah, no judgment. I just thought, isn't this interesting? Okay. And here's the other thing. We don't know what the end is going to be, what it's going to look like. We may have our ideas, but we don't know. The lessons are now. Like I feel like I'm collecting information so that at one point I'll look back on it, and I'm not talking about historically look back on it. This thing is not gonna last forever. So I feel like I can turn around and look. And right now I'm saying in God we trust, and I want to see. For me, in God we trust means I want to see the intervention of the divine energy is going to be on this. Something is going to happen. I'm curious.
Well, at the risk of leaning too much on Starbucks, when you go into the Starbucks, when any of us go into the Starbucks or wherever it is that we're going in for a cup of whatever our preferred beverage is, we don't tend to tell the barista or the bartender or whoever's doing the cooking exactly how to make our drink. We say how we want it to taste. We set an intention for the flavor and allow that flavor to come into our experience. That's the prayer that we're going to do. Not on, here's the process that I want you to make my double frapp, half calf, whatever latte with foam. Here's what I want the experience to be like for me. Let's see what that's like. Are you ready to get results? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. Are you ready to get results? RUR2GR. That's actually the abbreviation for the steps in a practical prayer. Recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release, with a couple of extra steps in there in case some doubt creeps in along the way. RUR2GR. This class is about the prayer technique that's common to all of the spiritual practices and religions in the most effective prayers that they have. And by effective, I mean that the prayer works. It actually creates a change in the experience of the person doing the prayer. It gets a result. We're going to begin with theory, and then we're going to take it into practice. By the end of the class, you will have your very own practical prayer that will help create transformation in your life.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
A wonderful conversation about that spiritual statement from the back of the money, "In God we trust." And that's keying up what our prayer is going to be about today. We always like to end the Practical Prayer Podcast with a practical prayer, which is 5 or 7 steps and follows a very specific format. And people periodically ask me, or they tell me that they can't use practical prayer because they are a fill-in-the-blank religion. This particular denomination or this particular teaching or this particular teacher or this, temple. And it's like, yeah, you can. It's just like the money can be used by anybody. If you got $1, you can buy $1 worth of stuff with it. If you have an intention, you can use a practical prayer with whatever the idea is of the infinite, of that spirit of God is that you have in mind. And the money doesn't say. The money doesn't say, the other thing it says it's legal tender for all debts, public and private. Mm-hmm. It's not just for my church. It's for all of them. So in the same way that there is that one divine power and presence that's referred to in the money, there is that one divine power and presence that is the creative force behind everything that exists everywhere. So the prayer today, taking the inspiration from Starbucks, is not for things to go the way I want them to go. It'd be nice. It'd be nice if everything went the way that I said. And then again, I'd be responsible for how they're going. And if it didn't go exactly the way, if somebody got unhappy with it, then I'd be to blame. So rather than it being the way that I say it should be, we'll do the prayer for it coming out in a way that is the way that I desire. And not specifically, I want it to be that person, that thing, that car showing up in my driveway at a particular time. This is the feeling that I want to have. Starting with the feeling that I have now, what's the feeling that I want to have instead? In the same way that we go to the Starbucks and we don't tell them how to make our coffee drink. We tell them the coffee drink that we want to have, the flavor of it, the experience of it. And some people like a lot of foam, and some people like no foam, and some people like the whipped cream, and some people, it doesn't matter what you like. What you like is what you like. And as you describe the feeling that you want to have, that's the intention that's being put forth to the person who's going to make your coffee. The same process works with the infinite. So that's the prayer. We get to turn away from the details and the specifics in the world around us. It's all still there. But as we turn away from it, we're able to open our awareness to that bigger picture, that grander creative process that's going on, knowing that there is one divine power and presence, one love, one source, one energy, one limitless intelligence, one source that we can conveniently call God. It is that one which has created everything, that one which is sharing its very energy and substance, its love and intelligence as all of its creation. Everything that exists everywhere is God's divine presence taking individual and specific and particular form. That includes me. That includes each one who is listening to this prayer. We are each individualizations of that divine presence. And we are each endowed with and using that same creative power to activate the creative law, to create newness in our lives. So the claim that I make on behalf of each of us is that as we open to the experience, to the tone, the texture, the flavor of the life experience that we're desiring, Not the specific, this person is going to do that, and this law is going to change, and that process is going to change, and this policy is going to go differently. Letting go of the specifics, opening up to the feeling, to the flavor, to the tone, to the texture of the life that we are desiring. Inviting that experience in, inviting that uplift of things fitting together in a way that is pleasing and harmonious, safe, comfortable, prosperous, loving, healthy, vital, joyous, connected, creative. Whatever feeling and experience that we are inviting in, the infinite creative power that creates everything is bringing the pieces together in a way that opens up the channel for that good to flow into our lives. And good and more good and more good shows up. And we don't need to control exactly how it happens. We are not responsible for the specifics of it. And just like at the Starbucks, if the blender breaks, they'll use a different blender. There's plenty of room for shifting and for accommodation, and for the good to unfold in perhaps surprising and unexpected ways. And I claim the good. I claim the good for each of us in our own way. And I know the law is already responding. It's already saying yes. This creative process is already underway. And so with a deep feeling of thanks for all the good already unfolding and still to come, I speak this word and release it into that creative law that creates everything. And I know that now it is creating this. And I let it be. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com.
be-the-light.com.
Where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
There we go. That brings us to the conclusion of episode number 196 of the Practical Prayer Podcast. Yeah.
196.
196. We'll have to have a celebration for number 200.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what. Maybe we'll go to Starbucks.
It would only be right.
Yeah, that's true.
Or
So
you
thank
can
you
bring
to
your Starbucks to the camera, and I'll bring my Starbucks to the to the
Okay.
Zoom, and we got Starbucks.
Well, let's see. A month from now, it'll almost be worthwhile for me to drive down to the beach.
Wow. See?
So we could do that again. That'd be, twice in 12 months. I don't know if we can handle that.
Gee, oh my goodness.
I don't know.
goodness.
Wow. Okay. Well, anything is possible. So thank you to the folks who are joining us on New Thought Media Network. This is the post show for the Practical Prayer Podcast. We just recorded an episode, and that's going to go into podcast land in a week or so. And thank you for being here with us. Again, if you have a question or a comment, you've missed the opportunity to put it into the comments now, but you can always, if you're watching the recording, go to the website, BeTheLight.com, be-the-light.com, where you can find all things Practical Prayer Podcast, including the link where you can comment or message us. So, and perhaps get into another one of those cycles where people are just chasing me on that one. It's been relatively quiet lately. So, but in any case, you're welcome to make a comment there. Carol, great topic as always.
Thank you. I was very curious about your thoughts on that.
Okay, well, after we get off the broadcast, I'll see if I made any sense whatsoever. Don't tell me now. Everybody else, thank you for being here, and we'll be back next week. See ya.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment. inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment, and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.